Well, we're at our studio with Russell Brown, our artistic director, for one of the creative team haircuts. Russell, tell me a little bit about what you've already done and what you're going to be doing here today.
Okay, so far we've retexturized the hair to open up the wave pattern to create a softer look to enhance the haircut. And after having done that, we've shampooed and conditioned. And then I blew it dry to stand the hair up so that I can do a more consistent cut. Now, I usually recommend, even if I was not doing the retexturizing service, that I'd shampoo the hair prior to the haircut to remove any hair dressing or debris or anything that may be in the hair.
Any product. Well, that's important. So you recommend starting off by shampooing, blowing the hair dry before you start with the cut.
And also, you notice by blowing it dry, the texture that we created with the retexturizing service, it seems as if you've lost it. But after the cut, we'll go back to the shampoo bowl and re-wet it to activate that curling.
Okay, great. So what's the steps that you're going to take with the cut today?
Okay, now the first step, because I'm cutting a clipper fade, we want to see a tighter look through the sides and back, but maintain most of the length in the top. So to start, I chose to put a shoe on the clipper because I'm not really sure how close this one might cut.
Okay.
So we'll give ourselves some area to work with.
A little bit of leeway.
Right, and I'll start to establish my line at the parietal area, just below the curve of the head. And if this one doesn't remove enough hair, then I will switch to a tighter shoe and then begin to taper it or fade it from there.
Okay, and you're going to fade in very close through the hairline here?
Closer as we move towards the hairline.
Okay.
But we don't want to see a heavy or strong line through the sides here.
Great. All right, well, look, we look forward to seeing the technique.
Okay,
thanks. Well, as Russell said, he's starting with the number 2 shoe and going to see if that makes an impression on the original hair length. So he's putting a key in. And if it doesn't, then he'll come back and go to the number 1. And the same with any haircut. Always give yourself the ability of taking a little more hair off. Don't come in and cut it so short in the first start point that you end up that, you know, you may be actually a little close. Well, it turns out it wasn't close enough, so he has gone to the number 1 shoe, and he's now starting to cut in that guide around the side. An interesting point that Russell made, I'm not sure how close these clippers will be. So that obviously tells you that different clippers cut to initially different lengths. So always make sure that you cover yourself, as Russell did, with insurance and do a test. Give yourself the ability of coming in closer. Well, he's taken a section above the ear and working that from one side to the other, cutting a guide that will serve for being able to work both below it and above it. We're starting now to work down from that guide. Interesting, see how the clipper he's cutting, actually cutting down. Obviously, as you do with any haircut, he'll cross-check, and cross-check when you're using clippers means come back at the section from a different approach, a different angle. So if he starts by cutting down, then the next phase will be to cut up, and then he'll cut across. So you're constantly checking and rechecking as you go, which gives you the perfect haircut afterwards. Well, initially it didn't look like very much was coming off even with that number 1 shoe. But as you can see, actually, there's quite a lot of hair coming off, so it's getting pretty close. There we go. Now you can see he's starting to come in the opposite direction. So he started off by cutting down, and now he's cutting up. And in between, he was cutting across. So that's where you complete that cross-checking. So it's just the same process. You think of it exactly the same as you would a regular haircut when you're using scissors. So continually working in the lower section of the haircut. He started again, let's just go over what happened. He put in a line around above the ear from one side to the other, and that becomes a guide. And then he worked from that line down into the nape of the neck. Roy has a great hairline, so he's working with that, cutting in very close there. really fading in. And actually that hairline fades away to nothing. So when Russell is working, if you could just see there above the ear and into the front area, there's a little bit of different level on the scalp there, so he's approaching it very cautiously, being careful that he's allowing for any of those bumps in the scalp, that he'll get the overall finish that he's after without any line or delineation from one area to another. And when he's cutting down with the clipper, because he's going through the hair and not cutting into the hair, it's going to leave it a little bit longer. So when he's coming on the up, as you can see now, it's actually going to take it, of course, in closer. Watch the process that he's using with the clipper, how it curves out. It curves out, so he maintains that little bit longer in the top section. And it's important as well that he's using, the technique is he's using both hands, so he's in total control of the clipper. Just combing to see exactly how that's developed. It's really great. Just checking any other areas that need it. So constantly make sure you've got the perfect shape. Getting as close as you need to. Well, Russell started in through the top section now, so he finished through the nape area, and he's now, as you can see, cutting down again. So down towards that guide that he initially cut in before going in, and at one point he will come in and cut up to check and cross-check. But he starts off in the same manner as he did through the back of the hair, that he's using the clipper in a downward motion. And also, it's important, look at the angle that he's holding the blade at. So he's really controlling the amount of hair that he's taking off. He's still using the #1 size shoe. That's cross-checking, as you can see there. You see, because he's not coming straight down, he's actually on an angle. So he's coming across, checking it. And what that does is, it pushes the hair in different directions, combing it up, stretching it out, and cutting off any excess. So it's a means of cross-checking as you go. You can really see the overall shape now taking place and how close actually that fade was, or is. So he's actually working the weight line out of the where he put the initial shape in, working to blend that in. Okay, at this point he's taking off the shoe and going to go straight to the actual blade for fading in right at the hairline itself, taking it in even closer. So it's a step-by-step procedure. He starts off by getting the initial shape, putting in that key or that guide from above the ear, from the one side to the other, then taking the lower section, working through that with the number 1 shoe, and then finally taking the clipper itself with no shoe protector, adjusting the blade, and coming in very, very close with it. So that really does fade it away to nothing around the hairline area. Cutting down as well as checking it up. So again, same thing, even though you're that close, you're always checking that, making sure that you've done it correct and that you've got all of the hair. So just very carefully fading that in. Cleaning around the ear, using the clipper not only as a tool for the entire width of the blade when he's working on the interior, but actually just using the very tip of the blade to clean around the ear, or the corner of the blade. So not using the entire width, but just a small isolated area. And look how he's using both hands, using the comb to comb the hair, just see exactly how it's developing, and then go in and make those final decisions and close cut. You can see now from the profile, and actually you could see in the monitor when he was working just how close that really is in the back there. It looks really great. A lot of guys today are looking for that fade cut to be taken in that close. Okay, so now you can see he's even taking the comb, laying it across the hair so that it lifts up a small section, using the clipper to take any excess weight out. Okay, so we've gone through the processes, and at this point, Russell's just finishing, just doing a quick check, and then he's going to go in and cut the top. And he has one of 2 options here. We'll see which one he uses. He could either use the shears or scissors, or he could continue to use the clipper. It's purely personal. It depends, actually, it's based on how much definition needs to be done in the top. If it's minimal, and it is, he's going to use the scissors. So, because all he's going to be doing is just going in and checking the shape and taking the ends off. If it was more considerable length coming off, then what he'd actually do is go in and use a shoe with the clipper. So whether it be, depending on the length he wants, anything from a 1 through a number 4. And remember, prior to doing that, he blended the line in. So we took that key, worked it into the bottom area, and then he worked it into the top. So that's already blended in. And after he's finished the entire haircut, what he'll do is rinse the hair and then do the combing into shape and styling. So you can see what he's done is comb the hair up and then use the scissor just for pruning over the top. Any odd hairs that are standing out, he is now cleaning. But basically the shape or the length of the hair that he started with Roy was the length that he wanted. So he's taking very, very little out of that. Very little off. just to restate that, if you are using the clipper, it's because you are taking more length out through the top. You've got someone who the top started out maybe a quarter or half an inch too long, so you want to remove more bulk. At that point, you would use the clipper, not the scissors. He's using that technique just for a final check through the entire shape. Really, in that area that he's working now, as you can see, it's where the blend is from the top into that back key. So he's just using the scissor there to make a scissor and comb to make sure it's just blended perfectly. What's really great about the shape is you can see just how closely that hair comes in at the nape and the hairline, and on the outline it just literally fades away. It's taken in that short, and yet at the same time there is not a severe line between the longer top and the faded outline. It's a gradual process. So the clipper fade, whether he used the clipper on top or not, he would do what he's doing now, which is finally go through, check your graduation using the comb and scissor. And the very final stage is the neck trimmer, where he's just going to check around the hairline area. Starting in front of the ear, checking that shape there, make sure it's perfect. The reason he's using that versus the large clipper is just that the teeth are closer and you get a little bit more sharpness to the line. So even though it's faded, just around the ear, he's putting in a little bit more of a definition line. And then cleaning off any stray hair. Defining the side. Taking off some stray hairs. And he'll do the same on the other side. So just edging behind the ear, from actually starting just in front of the ear and then edging around the ear. So that does create a little bit more definition, and then into that faded back. Just checking that, taking that in just that tiny bit closer, using that almost as a polishing technique. Looks great. That hairline works perfectly for it. So even though he's faded away to nothing, you can still see there is a slight definition to the hairline. It's not shaved away. Just using the trimmer to clean up the sides there. Just checking it down. Taking that shorter beard, but still leaving stubble there, taking it in close, but the same thing. So what he's doing there is getting a blend from the hairline to the beard area that it brings it in very cropped as well, so you get an overall look, but at the same time you don't want to go in so smooth that there's no facial hair showing. You do want the effect of a one-day stubble. So it really matches into the hairline area. You get a total look. Gives a much stronger appearance. And then the final step is to rinse and style with product. Well, it looks really great, Russell. Just fabulous. What's the product that you're using?
Well, right now I have applied the Regis Shining Pomade, but I could use other, similar type products just to enhance the surface quality of the hair, such as the sculpting mud, the design gel, even shining solution, depending upon the texture of hair that the client has. And I'll just brush it down here just to smooth everything out and balance.
That retexturizing really made a difference, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just gives a beautiful look.
And it saves him a lot of time in the morning when he finishes hair.
Looks great. Just fabulous. Well, beautiful job, Russell.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So let's just go over it one more time. Put the initial key in, then you use that to shape down to the bottom.
Correct.
Cutting down, then up, cross-checking. Went from a number 2 to the number 1, and then eventually to just the shoe itself to take it in very close. Use the trimmer to clean up the line.
Right.
And on the top here, because you didn't need to take too much out, you use the scissors just to make sure almost to prune any hairs that are standing above
just to
the
clean up
shave.
any strays that may be there. It is not always necessary, but if it is, you can treat it that way.
Well, fantastic approach, great technique. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Just a
thanks.
fabulous job.